Before we start today's video, please remember to subscribe, share our videos with others, and browse the channel to watch other enjoyable videos. Before the Russian Revolution of 1917, Jews in the Russian Empire were subjected to discrimination, legal restrictions, and exclusion from many parts of society. They were primarily concentrated in the Pale of Settlement, a region of the empire where Jews were allowed to live, which included areas of present-day Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, and parts of Russia. After the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, the new Soviet government took steps to abolish legal discrimination against Jews. However, while the Soviets officially promoted equality, Jewish communities still faced economic and social challenges, and questions about how best to integrate Jews into Soviet society lingered. The Soviet leadership, under Joseph Stalin, believed in promoting the idea of nationalities or ethnic groups, and their right to self-determination. This was part of the broader Soviet policy that sought to accommodate various ethnic groups within the Soviet Union through cultural autonomy and the creation of autonomous regions for different nationalities. For Jews, however, the situation was complex. Although the Bolshevik Revolution had led to the legal equality of Jews, many Jewish leaders and intellectuals felt that Jews should have their own place where they could develop a distinct cultural and social identity. Some Jewish groups pushed for the creation of a Jewish autonomous region within the Soviet Union. Initially, there were discussions about establishing a Jewish homeland in other parts of the Soviet Union, including Crimea or in areas closer to Palestine, before the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. But the Soviet government ultimately decided on a more remote location in the Russian Far East. The Soviet authorities chose Birobidzhan, a remote region for the Jewish Autonomous Oblast, or JAO, in Siberia, because of several practical and ideological reasons. Geopolitical considerations. The Soviet Union was strategically interested in developing the Far East and improving its control over the region. By establishing the Jewish Autonomous Oblast in this remote location, the Soviet government could bolster its presence in an area that was sparsely populated and distant from potential foreign influence. Land availability. The area in and around Birobidzhan was largely uninhabited and sparsely populated at the time. It offered the Soviet authorities an opportunity to settle people in a new area and develop agriculture and industry, thereby promoting the socialist ideals of collectivization and industrialization. Political calculations. Stalin and Soviet leadership may have seen the establishment of the Jewish Autonomous Oblast as a way to placate both the Jewish community and certain international groups that were advocating for a Jewish homeland. The Soviet Union's establishment of the JAO also helped to present the Soviet government as sympathetic to the Jewish population while promoting socialist policies. Economic and social goals. The JAO was envisioned as a place where Jewish cultural autonomy could be developed under the auspices of Soviet socialism. The Soviet government wanted to create a region where Jews could live according to their cultural traditions while being integrated into the socialist system, including collective farms and state-run industries. Although the Soviet government established the Jewish Autonomous Oblast in 1934 and promoted it as a place for Jews to develop their own cultural and social life, the reality of life in the JAO was far more complex and less idealistic. Jewish immigration to the region. Despite initial optimism, relatively few Jews moved to the JAO. The region's remoteness, harsh climate, and economic difficulties deterred many Jews from relocating there. Most Jews, instead, chose to live in larger cities like Moscow, Leningrad, and others in the Soviet Union, where economic opportunities were better. Cultural autonomy. The Soviet authorities initially promoted Yiddish as a language of culture in the JAO, and Jewish schools, newspapers, and cultural institutions were set up. However, the Soviet government also pursued policies of forced assimilation, and over time, the promotion of Jewish culture was diminished. Yiddish was replaced by Russian as the main language, and Jewish cultural institutions faced increasing repression. Soviet anti-Semitism. In the 1940s and 1950s, Stalin's policies became more repressive, and anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union began to rise. This reached a peak in the late 1940s and early 1950s, with campaigns that included the Doctor's Plot, a fabricated conspiracy alleging Jewish doctors were plotting to kill Soviet leaders, and other forms of discrimination against Jews. These policies led many Jews to emigrate from the Soviet Union in later decades, and the Jewish Autonomous Oblast never achieved the thriving autonomous Jewish society that was initially envisioned. Today, the Jewish Autonomous Oblast is home to a very small Jewish population. The region's Jewish identity, which was once emphasized in the early years of its establishment, has largely faded over time. However, there remains a small Jewish community in the region, and some cultural and historical landmarks related to the Jewish presence in the area are still preserved. The creation of the JAO was ultimately a result of the Soviet attempts to balance Jewish cultural autonomy with broader political and economic goals. While the project was not successful in creating a thriving Jewish homeland, it represents a unique chapter in the history of Soviet nationalities policies and the broader story of Jewish diaspora and identity in the 20th century. That is the end of the video, and on behalf of the OLE 20th Century History YouTube channel, thank you for watching this video, and please remember to subscribe, share our videos with others, and browse the channel to watch other enjoyable videos.